Why did you choose a moment of such grief to reintroduce her past?
You're watching the Spotlight Network, starring Hollywood's newsman,
And if you were just
Logan
trying to get to
Crawford.
investigators, they now believe a single member.
He works with TV and film legends. And now, Logan's shining the spotlight on the world's top emerging authors and creators.
International were abducted.
This is Spotlight with Logan Crawford, streaming on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV.
I'm Logan Crawford, and right now we're diving into the compelling fiction of international best-selling author Sarah Rayner and her wonderful novel, The One Who Got Away. This book is a visceral blend of psychological thriller and nostalgia, following Suzy Hope, who after a traumatic accident is haunted by her past loves, from rave music days to a mysterious first love from the 1970s. Join us to explore how a forgotten CD compilation and a head injury force Suzy to confront her inner demons to discover if she can ever truly love again. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today. We thank the team at Prime 7 Media for helping us put her on TV today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her amazing book. The links are below this interview. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us here today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure to have you on the show. This is such an original work. Is it inspired at all by real life?
I would say that with all my novels, it's a kind of blend of bits of my life and subjects that fascinate me. And what I try to do is get something that might tick a universal box, if you like, to get people into the story. So I like to take perhaps one event as a pivotal incident and then see where that takes me. So in this novel, the idea that I had was that there's somebody or some bodies in most of our past, by the time you get to kind of a little bit older, let's say my age and below and above, people who we might be wondering where they're at now, ex-lovers, friends, those sorts of people. And you might be tempted to delve a little into online, Facebook, that sort of thing, to find out where they're at. And I think that was the start point that most people can kind of recognize. Even if they don't do it, they might be tempted to do it, or they might encourage a friend to do it so they can live vicariously or whatever. But that in itself wasn't enough of an idea. I had to make the kind of other elements of the novel thread through that as well. And so I take the readers or listeners, if they're listening to it on audio, through a journey. And what I used was music, if you like, as a theme to bring out the different elements of the story so that we travel back in time with Suzy Hope, my heroine, if you like, to re-experience real events and things like that, to give readers another element that they might identify with. So we see Suzy going through things that we might have wished we were at. So like a David Bowie concert, or she experiences the Queen's Silver Jubilee as a teenager, and they pile in listening to the Sex Pistols, thinking they're very outrageous and so on. And then they witness the day that John Lennon dies and that sort of thing. So through these mix of audio tracks and actual events, I tried to make something that readers would kind of feel connected to in some way.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah,
It's so immersive because of those real life events. It feels like a very true, real story and puts you back in the moment at that time. I mean, I remember where I was when John Lennon was killed, and some of the other things you mentioned, outrageous punk music from the
yeah,
1980s and 70s that you thought was so rebellious at the time. I think that's
yeah.
really wonderful and immersive. The story pivots on a letter from Johnny, her first love, on the
That's
morning of
right.
her mother's funeral. Why did you choose a moment of such grief to reintroduce her past?
What I wanted to do was, I thought it was, I had to bring this character, Johnny, back into her life in a way that was credible. He's not going to write to her with no reason. And having lost her mother, she's
Mm.
very raw, and her head is full of loss and grief, but it's
Mhm.
also potentially a new beginning. When you lose a parent, Suzy herself has been her mother's primary carer. She's sort of freed up for the first time in years. She no longer has to look after her mother. And although she's not really at a point where she can think these things out clearly, she's got a kind of gap in her life that is emerging as a result of her mother's death.
Mm.
And she no longer is looking after her son. He's grown up and living with his girlfriend in London. And her work is not as fulfilling as it could be. So there's a sort of question mark around what she does next. But it's not, she's not yet aware of it, if you like. And into
Mm.
this big question mark, other things can fall, if you like.
Mm.
And one of those things is that she gets a letter from her old
Yeah.
flame, Johnny. But it's not just a letter, it's got a CD with it. And the CD is a compilation that he has made. So it takes her straight back into their relationship when she first met him as a child and then their teenage love. So it's got all the kind of visceral passion of first love
Mm.
immediately ignited by receiving this carefully made CD.
Yeah. Getting a mixtape or a compilation CD really does transport you back. I know every morning when I wake up, the first song on my head, I will tell Alexa to play it. And I've been playing a
Right,
lot of Squeeze lately, Another Nail for My Heart and that
right.
kind of stuff. And it transports me back
Yeah,
magically to my 20s. I think of the friends I was hanging out with at that time, the clubs I
yeah.
was going to. So music really is a wonderful connection to our past. And I think that's what's so wonderful about your book is that it really gives you a visceral reaction to what Suzy is going through.
Yeah, and I thought together with the actual events, because most people will recognize these events, like you say, you know where you were when John Lennon died. We sort
Yeah.
of know where we were when Diana died and that sort of thing. So these are sort of stamps, if you like, that I expect people to recognize and then connect with, so that we're really experiencing things alongside Suzy.
Yeah, exactly. Susie is actually knocked down by a car after the wake.
Yes,
This accident kind
absolutely.
of symbolizes the collision between her past and her present.
It does. It really does. And when I talk about there being a space in Suzy that's opened up, she starts to have terrible nightmares as she comes round from the accident in hospital. They don't relate neatly to her accident, and she can't work out what is going on. So she starts to feel as if she's suffocating, as if she's in the water, as if
Mm.
she's fighting for her life. But that isn't connected to how the accident happened. She was in a car, she was on her own. So we begin to fire these questions, you know, or the reader does.
Mm.
Um, and we begin to kind of want answers to things. Is she going to meet Johnny again, who sent
Mhm.
her the CD? Where is he at now? Might she get a second chance at love with him? What about the other people who she also loved as a young woman? Where are
Mm.
they? So on. And within a few short chapters, she's arranging to meet old boyfriends online and things like that, which of course can be, you know, a catalyst for an enormous personal change or disaster. And I tried to write something that was a love story, yes, but not just about one love, but about a woman's different loves that she'd had, each perhaps fulfilling a different part of her, and also about her coming to terms with her own past and herself as an individual.
Mm. Absolutely. The book was original title mentioned the past cannot be left behind.
Yes,
Susie's concussion kind of physically manifests this idea, right?
yeah, it does. And she when she starts to have these nightmares and things, um, they are connected in some way to her past, but I don't want to spoil for readers
Yes, exactly.
how, because we take that step by step as we relive Susie's past with her. But she is trying to find out and piece together and make sense of what's happening to her because it's very frightening.
Exactly.
We all know that, you know, if you have a trauma, if you have an experience that is really traumatic, it affects the brain. And
Mhm.
that's what's happening to Susie, but she can't work out what the trauma is. It's very, very deep.
Yeah. When I was reading your book, it reminded me of material that a director like Cameron Crowe would like to turn
Yeah,
into a film, primarily
let's
because he loves great soundtracks, because he
Yeah,
uses music to transport the viewer. Have you envisioned this as a film?
I'd love it to be a film, obviously, and it could be interlaced with newsreel clips and so on, if
Mhm.
possible. Um, yeah, and because I think the soundtrack is so important, it does work beautifully on audio, and I had a lovely time recording the audio version of it with music to reflect the music in the on the compilation. Yeah, but all my books and writing, I think the same is true for all authors. We can kind of envisage them in different formats and so on. But the first thing it has to work out is a novel on the page and keep readers turning the pages and so forth. I wanted
Mm.
it to have the pace and grippingness um, of a thriller, if you like. So
Yeah.
it's a love story, but it's also a quest for meaning and truth.
Mm.
And that element of it is the thriller-like aspect that will keep
Yeah.
readers flipping those pages.
It's also, I think almost everybody does what you said in the beginning, which is look up on Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever it might
Yeah,
be, their past loves, their first love. What are they doing today? So I feel like there's that real connection. Um, do you think that past loves were so great, or they were just the first? Or do you think it's just nostalgia making it feel better, look better, seem better than the reality of the present?
I mean, in a way, that's what the novel is exploring. Is
Mm,
is it just her memory and all the passion that she had then,
mm,
um, kind of igniting, or is there a lasting connection that she's been given a second chance at discovering?
mm.
And in a way, there is an array of her lovers who I mean, I don't mean hundreds of lovers, I mean a handful who
Yeah.
she reconnects with, and we are kind of exploring alongside her whether or not those connections might work in the present day.
Yeah.
Uh, and we don't know. When she starts off at the beginning of the novel, Johnny is married to somebody else.
Hmm.
So, that's not a door that is open to her. And there's a lot that has to happen before we find out, whether or not she ends up with the one who got away or who the one who got away actually is.
Yeah.
Is it Johnny or is it one of the other characters? Or could it even be Susie who got away from a
Mm.
bad boy or whatever?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I really wanted to keep people guessing.
Well,
And
you've
I'm
done
very
it.
glad because
Yeah.
people have told me the end is not guessable.
It's also such a perfect time to revisit that era between the 70s and the 90s because the clothes was different, the music was different, the attitudes were different, and we
Yeah,
also were an unplugged age, which is so much different than today. I think
yeah,
this thing here has taken the romance out of everything, including chance
yeah,
encounters, love letters, wondering, if there wasn't for the internet, if you had
yeah,
past love, you'd be wondering, I wonder what she's doing today. And that would be the end of it, really, unless you happen to go to
yeah,
your hometown and run into her or him
yeah,
or whatever the case might be.
yeah,
But today, like you said, you can find out what she's having for lunch,
yeah,
so it's not quite as thrilling living in today's world as far as romance goes. I
yeah.
feel anyway. What's next for you? Are you working on another book? I know you're a pretty prolific writer.
I am working on another book, but not a novel, actually, just to give a sense of perspective. I also write non-fiction. I've got a collection of self-help books, which explore different kind of areas where people might be feeling low or yeah. So I've got one book which is on the menopause and one on anxiety and one on depression, for instance. And my little books are all about kind of making friends, if you like, with those difficult feelings and helping people find a way through. Very simple and to the point, not full of academic jargon or anything. And I'm writing a new one of those. I
Wonderful.
tend to juggle doing fiction and non-fiction side by side.
Well, I think that makes you a stronger writer because I think your nonfiction is influenced by your fiction and vice
Really,
versa.
yeah.
Because that makes your nonfiction much more readable because you know how to write a beautiful novel, as evidenced in this beautiful novel. The book we've been talking about
Thank
today is
you.
called The One Who Got Away. It is the long-awaited novel from international best-selling author Sarah Rayner, and it is a gripping story of love, memory, and the secrets of the past that refuse to stay buried. Sarah, thank you so much. I almost go to call you Suzy because of your character. But
Yeah,
Sarah, thank you so much for joining us.
pleasure.
True pleasure having you on the show today. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time.